Good morning. I'm Viviana Polisena. I present my research, Philosophy of Artificial Intelligence, Ethics for Smart Cities. Philosophy of AI includes ethical reflection. This is multi-horizontal because it brings together computer science, robotics, psychology, information science, transfer, and management science. The goal of philosophical reflection is a better understanding of the social, moral, and policy issues of the evolution of AI, as well as the determination of ethical rules for a fair digital world. Is AI the useful tool for public policy related to the work of collaborative action? And is the phenomenon of big data and data science up to the challenges posed by the governance of smart city? How to address these cases and experiences of the use of big data in the field of collaborative action? The job of the future or the future of the work? Neither of the two, but collaborative action. From the present and the future we should speak of collaboration, not work. And we should discuss what collaboration will look like in the future. Collaboration is undoubtedly related to data protection that should be carried out not only by data scientists and data analysts, because it also writes the data of citizens. The collaborative action displays a sustainable and effective competitiveness, under which the capacity of horizontal government, agencies and digital services academics are updated for the handling of technological talent with the digital human side. Philosophical reflection is important to be alert and not to fall into a blind application of massive data and algorithm in user science, which should be taken into account that we will use technology to transform us. The digital environment represents a multi-level challenge for the blockchain philosophy, so it is essential to deepen its dynamic from the anthropological and ethical point of view. A new narrative of concern, all of because the problem in thinking about digital transformation affects the way of understanding life. The philosophy of AI amplifies the reflection of, on how AI will become the technology of the future and will be part of each citizen in a smart city. This redefines a new social pact with a new citizen's consciousness. The philosophy of AI reflects on the imitation of nature in attempt to find solutions to new problems and new interaction between the biological and the digital. Although each smart city will have its AI system that will connect all citizens without the need for a screen. Smart city system will also be interconnected using data and algorithm. Philosophy provide a human dimension, reflection and ethics, with philosophy, the challenges and opportunities of digital transformation in the governance of smart cities can be addressed. Citizens of smart cities will need to develop a common efforts in order to make laws and participate in the public sector in a more virtuous way. The philosophy of AI reflects on how algorithms interconnect data and how AI itself feeds on data and the scope of this evolution in order to regulate the direction of big data. The philosophy of AI aims to build an ecosystem and data governance oriented toward, toward the common good. It also tries to find a way out of risk of manipulation, of isolation, of emotional dependence on the network of the new freedom. The current pandemic has put emphasis on the need to reinvent the role of the public function and the way to work in smart cities. It's urgent, it is urgent to develop new capabilities and digital skills so that the transformation of the institution of cities focuses on the needs of citizens. Thinking about innovation in a philosophical way analyze ethical the opportunities and dangers of the digital age will make us more human and equal. We should prepare for the transition for the digital age. It is of utmost importance to elaborate and develop a philosophical approach to AI from which the ethic of the artificial and the digital is deployed. This action is collaborative. It involves computing, robotics, communication, social political, linguistic, cultural, and rhizomatic economy. The ethics of the artificial should qualify in different social and economic contexts and impact in public and private freedoms in light to the dimension between identity and digital personality. At the dawn of the digital age, we are building the bioethic of the future. It's necessary not only for a good quality for collective life, but for an equitable transfer of knowledge and the authentic social awareness to generate well-being and transformers in the processing of public and private data, savings in the management of algorithms, and balanced governance in the transparent regulation of the AI ecosystem for efficient local decision making in each smart city and for efficient decision making in global cities. In the interaction of them that scale the new global governance system, the AI network of smart city for a structure capable of analyzing the environment as a strategy as evident with neither the new social pact or the development of citizen awards in the drafting to bring rights and responsibility will not be possible. The legislator of the board will be collaborative in the design of the new framework necessary to guarantee the freedom and the dignity of citizens. The new order will provide people with, with new and unique opportunity. It will make people's life more meaningful and simpler, orderly, logical, fair, interesting, and happier. The ethics of the digital age should answer the following question. How does social media influence our decision making? Is there privacy in the digital age? Can a machine act intelligently? Can a machine have a mind, a state of mind, and consciousness in the same way as a human? Ethics should regulate the handling of personal data on networks. This will impact in public and private freedoms. The time of a natural society coexistence with the artificial has begun. Humanity does not experience a crisis, but rather live within the horizon of events. That is, there is a gap between what is past and what is future, a separation between what we have lived and what we live like. From this horizon, no human will be able to escape, no human will emerge as he was before, but we will all be transformed. We are overcome by the fear that machine will overcome us, that they are autonomous in learning and capable of improving themselves and developing emotional skills. More than ever, the future is the effect to the present, and it is in this present that moral, political, legal, philosophical, and ethical divides arise. This is the time to agree on a regulation and reflect on the life we wish for us of right. Such reflection cannot go with the speed of technology precisely because it is reflection and reflection take time. It is the perspective of thinking. In that waiting time, the question arises, can the power of creation overcome the power of the creator? Can the power of AI overcome the power of human intelligence? We, we have created an intelligence what does not need a physical form, but its dimension is virtual. It is beyond the biological tissue. How to hold AI accountable when the creator it is no longer responsible, and the responsibility falls on the artifact itself. What will happen when the algorithm decides? What will we do when the programs and the algorithm acquire intentionality. Can artificial intelligence acquire the status of a digital person? If so, what are its rights and obligations? Can a program go into policy and battle with other algorithms to proselytize? Is that transhumanism or is it the end of humanism? What kind of marginalization and vulnerability will emerge? Progress is inherent to the human, the existential basis of the human being is learning, constantly extending the frontier of knowledge, innovating. This leads us to the idea that humans will continue technological innovation and extend the intelligence of artifacts, taking into account that in the technological career, the backweight of philosophical reflection becomes imperative, because it is not about accumulating, accumulating and generating the opinion of knowledge. It's about protracting, changing the direction of the gaze, or a exhortation consecrated to justice, moderation and virtue, therefore consecrated to a philosophical life. This should be the goals of humanity before the development of AI. A big data can organize other less complex technology that they can plan the future beginning from zero. That is without a human programmer that introduces data, without a doubt that will be the beginning of the superior of next generation AI. At that moment, the event horizon will be crossed. How will we contain our creation? We know that the key is the use we do of it. But does technology know how to use technology? What if the strategy of AI does not coincide with human well-being? What if its preferences are not our preferences? The challenge is to create artificial systems living with human values. So, how do we code AI so they don't turn against humanity? It is possible to introduce the values of respect for human life into data and the intention behind that data. We should focus of imagining of and developing systems and structures that empower people really affected by technologies. How from a participatory angle can we guarantee that all pertinent voices be heard? How can we trust in new AI systems in settings and sensitive and ubiquitous as public classroom, household the transport, the law, enforcement, and other services. The need arises to promote the use of legal software and advocate for public policy that encourage technological innovation and good growth in the digital economy, which should be transparent, diverse, equitable, promote social welfare, and accountable to the citizens. A new horizon of responsibility appears that require ethical principles that include the immediate and immediate future of the consequences of human action. Principles that analyze the technical environment of the human being with social and political consequences. I'm talking about a new sustainable global policy for life, which value system represents the future planet at the moment. Humanity is taking a leap from Homo sapiens sapiens to Homo digitalis. Can AI claim its right to be an electronic person with legal personality? Being an electronic person and acquiring legal personality, thus it has right to train and process data, which other rights can AI claim? Right to exist and to be repaired, right to function and self-repair, and right trained to AI should be located with the framework of protection of human life and non-human life. We should look after of the ethical regulation that apply to AI are global and represent the citizen of the entire planet. Hence, the need for reflection in both public and private actors. Running does not guarantee as adequate ethical consideration for the development of the artificial. When I speak of the citizen of the entire planet, I'm referring to the need for cultural pluralism applied to the ethical regulation of the AI ecosystem. This ethical regulation should not be reduced to the economy dimension, but rather include all human activities and all planet actors, such as education, security, health, international relations, diplomacy, data management, research, production, and management of knowledge, digital money, global governance with all its cultural diversity. The time has come for the Global Pact, a contract never before elaborated to humans as global social contract. In this pact, it should include not only its behavior and its consequences, but its own artificial creator in daily affairs, public service, and data interaction management. If AI ever succeeds in having right, this should never overlap or contradict human rights. AI and intensive data-based technology can solve the world's biggest challenges, but they also propose risks to individual and groups. We as implement new technology, we should consider the critical ramification of using AI to identify and rectify the damage. Responsible design and use of AI is difficult, but there is an urgent need. When organizations adopt new technologies without taking into account the social, economic, cultural, and political context, they can endanger privacy and security and exacerbate inequalities in ways that are difficult to reverse. We should develop collective consciousness of social impacts of technology and provide people and institutions with the tools to pursue the responsible use of AI. A priority area for the organization is to investigate the potential for the application of AI approaches on the risk assessment management process. The objective is to build a roadmap for action that provides recommendations for future study for global projects. There is a global interest in, in building some kind of planetary consensus mechanism on AI governance. We are clear at one of development in which there are many actors contributing at this moment, in this moment that goes from principle to practice. And we simply need to work together with the multi-concerned part to harmonize these approaches. AI will transform industries, productivity, crop yields, drugs, discovery, decline in biodiversity, and help conserve nature by achieving ambitious global goals. Protect and, and protect land and oceans and restore the great ecosystem. But there are obvious risks. AI-powered system can transgress privacy, while application based on low quality data can lead to bias and discrimination. The world we live in is increasingly based on data. This is causing companies to increasingly use AI techniques such as machine learning and deep learning appears to be the only efficient way to control data and generate value of the business relatively quickly. Of course, future competitiveness also plays an important role. The AI ethics director's job should not be primarily technical. Instead, we should sensitize data scientists, machine learning engineers, and developers on ethical issues. The entire sensitization process should be part of any data-driven project. By this I mean that the technical workflow will be firmly integrated into the respective model and process basis. However, in addition to being a great promise, increasingly capable, smart systems create significant ethical challenges. The topic discussed deals with impact on human society, human psychology, the financial system, the legal system, the environment, and the planet, and in trust. Here are some points that an AI ethic official should consider in the work. Issues related to privacy, privacy, human rights, and dignity are addressed, as well as the risk of AI perpetuating biases, intentional or not, of existing social system or they create. This section also raises questions about AI technology's impact on democracy, suggesting that this technology may operate to the benefit of state-controlled economies. The increasing use of AI comes with increasing use of natural resources, increased demand for energy and waste disposal uses. However, AI could improve the way we manage waste and resources, leading for environmental benefits. The future of society depends on trust. For AI to take on health-related tasks, the public should trust on technologies. Trust includes aspects such as fairness, transparency, responsibility. It's primarily about identifying and understanding ethical risk and training citizens on how to do that. Discussions about the ethics of AI still take place primarily in academic circles, but it can already see that many companies are taking it seriously. How can different actors improve corporate governance of AI, taking into account the public interest? Science, AI research and development have an ever-increasing impact on the world. It is essential to ensure that the governance of leading companies in the field support the public interests and the common good. The need to promote complementary cooperation among all global actors and create a standard for AI based on ethics and fundamental rights. While on the one hand, AI has the great advantage in terms of efficiency and speed, on the other hand, it involves a series of risks and should be taken into account. That is why we should ensure that the development and use of AI in society is based on respect for fundamental rights and freedoms, the rule of law and democracy. Secondly, it is also not clear who really owns the data that is generated in a healthcare system. However, this is a very complex legal issue that is regulated differently from each country. Most likely, the obligation to divulge data may derive from an obligation to promote the common good and should result from political processing in which citizens are involved. We have to keep in mind that market economy is not in a position to produce supportive institutions. However, solidarity should be at the center of the use of AI. Efforts to create them should be equitably distributed as the expected benefit and rights. Ethics is inescapable because it refers to the ultimate values on which our choices are based. Whether we realize it or not, these are values that define what it is not how good life and what we owe to others include non-human animals and nature. The concept that AI will get out of control and not be constrained by human morality and may that brings catastrophic consequences. But what is human morality? What is morality correct is that which will maximize the fulfillment of human preferences. Therefore, ethics is reduced to an exercise of prediction and optimization, deciding what act or policy is likely to lead to the optimal fulfillment of human needs. In democracy, it is not enough to give a vote to people while effectively including themselves from the deliberation, and if they will deliberate as equals, they should have access to the key cities where base idea about justice and good are elaborated. One of the most important goals for philosophy and ethics is to develop formats that facilitate a more secure and trustworthy democratic dialogue. And from this main objective, the principle comes human, social, and environmental well-being, human-centered values, equity, protection and security of privacy, reliability and safety, transparency and explicability. AI should always have a human-centered perspective. It should always be linked to the development of human beings and of course it should also be directed toward a more social benefit and as distributed as possible. And on the other hand, it has to be respectful of our fundamental rights. So AI algorithm should be better from an ethical perspective, not a performance perspective. Reading an AI system is for a better and more transparent world. Promote the impact of AI on society, and strengthen the role of civil public participation so that they engage in a responsible way, generating strong links. The effort to ensure that technologies are beneficial to society should be a joint action, a collaborative action. Collaborative network and global consortia working toward on issues related to AI ethics with a global mindset. Public deliberation is a cornerstone of participatory and representative governance and a creator of shared value within society. As such, an AI governance framework should aim to improve social welfare. Real machines are needed to bring public voices toward current debates locally and globally. How on how to govern the increasing use of AI in our daily life. Rapidly displaying new technology without enough collaboration of social and ethical implications and the use of participatory process that incorporate the public voices of concern and their communities runs the risk of unleashing a number of evils with much broader than long-term effects. Strengthening the role of public participation and civil society in the AI governance process include, among other topics, implication of using AI enabled tools in the democratic process. What extent includes it depends on access to information and empowerment. Real participation of civil society in the public and private governance of AI. Reduce inequalities in the AI debate. Governance and access to ethical technologies. Promote ethical decision making as a shared exercise and public participation. Ensure a multicultural approach to this civil society participation. Technology assessment, organization of data technique commission to promote the participation of civil society. The new Global governance system will be based on the development of the art and the philosophy. Its education will be based on deep learning in immersive classrooms and laboratories. This will transform the way of teaching and learning. Effective educational system will be developed with augmented reality and mixed reality. Philosophy teaches learning to be human, hence the importance of philosophy as an educator in smart cities. The philosopher as an educator of an integral education that allows the development of the personality so that each citizen can display its ethos toward excellence in the acquisition of virtues and values. We should build the ethos together to make it a common ethos. Thus, we can make laws and participate in the Republic. This is the best way to become virtuous and happy citizens. Virtuous citizens regulate the laws of the data, make it and access to data for research. This regulation is optimal, efficient, and transparent, and digital ethic. In the digital age, ethics links policy with the technology. Thus, from governance, the horizontal interconnections between economy, society, policy, and technology are examined. Technology plays a central role in AIs. Data analytics give us better informed decision making possibility with less risk of error even. And this is essential when formulating public policy and regulation about privacy. In smart city public and social policies include climate, environmental and energy strategy, big data, international organization for safety, security and mobility data, political theory, justice and ethics, competition, law and policy. This strategy includes electronic governance with alternative and complementary channels for citizen participation. The citizens of smart city are participants in how technology shapes policy and governance. Scientists and philosophers will emerge from the new generation of citizens who will be born and trained in smart cities. Those will use efficiencies, multilateral approaches, built only in cooperation and with collaborative responsibility. Finally, I can affirm that the fundamental principle of the philosophy of AI is all artificial artifacts must support natural and human and non-human life. The artificial cannot prevent the human being from thinking. It cannot prevent the human being from philosophizing. The artificial cannot emulate human free will. Thanks very much.